Welcome back. As this is the halfway point through our look at 12 Byzantine emperors, I thought it might be worth having a little pause to look at some maps before we look at our 7th emperor. I think sometimes it can be difficult to picture the expansion and contraction of the empire, so the following maps will hopefully give you a better idea. I'd like to thank Lucius.net for the maps. The link is in the notes, and I highly recommend that you go and take a look. So, by the time Constantine the Great dies in 337 CE, you can see the empire spreads across Western Europe, the north of Africa, down into Egypt, and east almost into Iran. This wasn't the biggest the empire ever was. At its peak, under the Emperor Trajan in 117 CE, the empire covered about 5 million square kilometres. And by Constantine's time, that had shrunk to about 3 to 3.5 million square kilometres. By the time of Theodosius' death in 395, the empire is divided into two, the east and the west, and would never again be unified. The two halves of the empire, though, cover about the same area as the empire in Constantine's time. Now, a brief word about numbers. Obviously, no one was going around at the time measuring the empire, and what maps we have now are as accurate as historians can make them. But it's impossible to determine exactly where the borders of the empire were drawn. It's also difficult to be definitive about what actually counts as the empire. Does it include client kingdoms? Does it include deserts, semi-controlled regions, and so on? In short, take any numbers that you hear about area with a grain of salt. However, having said that, you don't need numbers to see that there is a massive difference in the empire between Theodosius' time and Justinian's. So by this point, the western half of the empire is gone. Justinian has recaptured North Africa and Egypt for now, but Western Europe is gone forever. That shrinkage continues by the end of Heraclitus' reign in 641, where the empire has now lost Egypt, southern Spain, much of Italy, and pretty much all of the Balkans. I couldn't find a map of the empire at the time of Leo III's death in 741, but this map from 717 shows the extent of the empire when he came to the throne. And this map from 775 gives you a good idea. North Africa is lost and some parts of Italy, but otherwise the empire is broadly the same. By 867, when Basil I comes to the throne as sole emperor, you can see that the empire has pushed a little further to the west and regained Greece. And it'll stay broadly like this until the reign of our next emperor, Basil II. We'll take a look at Basil II, Basil the Bulgar Slayer, in our next episode. But until then, thanks very much for listening. Please remember to like, share and subscribe on your way out. And whatever you're up to, have a great day.